UBC, inspiring Uganda.
Oh, we are on air, and good evening and welcome to this edition of Behind the Headlines this Wednesday, the 11th of January 2023. And breaking news coming in from the Ministry of Health: Uganda is Ebola free, and what a good news, and something to celebrate. The last 4 or 5 months have been tense, very anxious Ugandans, and you know, many people around us fearing us, and you know, we had Ebola just coming after the scary and disorganizing COVID, and now we are still left with the COVID here and there. So, but something there to celebrate. We will be reading briefly the message of the Ministry of Health. The Minister of Health has released the message. I will be looking it out and reading it for you, the official message that we should be celebrating, even if we are called to still take care about other diseases. But for today, the discussion on the lips of every Ugandan who cares is the workers' money. NSSF in big news for the last about 3 weeks, 1 month. And I will start with telling you what the public domain facts are, and then we will be discussing them. I will be asking the acting managing director or deputy, substantive deputy managing director, who is here with us, to tell us what the real facts are from within the fund. But some of the things that we hear about, there is already an inquiry or investigation into matters around the fund and its handling or management. The president has directed that the matters around the MD not being appointed should be investigated. Issues to do with, you know, there are issues to do with request by the minister of up to 6 billion shillings to do work to ramp up the membership within the fund or to increase membership of the fund. And of course, you know, NSSF is not new to scandal. But let's start the discussion by introducing the acting managing director, Mr. Patrick Ayota. He is seated at the extreme end, and he doesn't know yet, but we know within here. He's seated on the hot seat. Patrick, you're most welcome.
Thank you, viewers.
The hot seat. Within us, we know when you sit is when we inform you that that is actually the hot seat.
This was entrapment, eh?
No, it's for a good cause. But you're most welcome,
Thank you.
Patrick. Good to have you. Patrick is currently acting managing director, but he has also been appointed substantive deputy managing director. He has been in that role for some time now, and Patrick has been doing a good job together with Richard Biarogaba, who is still out in the cold, but waiting for his day.
Thank you.
Next to Patrick is senior counsel, immediate past president of the Uganda Law Society, Counsel Fiona Wall. You're most welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Good to have you here.
A little too close to the hot seat. Thank you for having me, and Happy New Year.
Thank you. Happy New Year too. Next to Counsel Fiona Wall is Honorable Paul Omara, MP, Otuke County, and he sits on the Budget Committee. He's an MP in the 10th Parliament, 11th, sorry.
11th Parliament.
11th Parliament. Honorable Paul, you're most welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
We have in the studio as well a man who needs no introduction as far as workers' things are concerned, but he is a member on the NSSF board, Honorable Dr. Sam Liomoki. He's here with us. He will be helping Patrick where things need help, but he will be facing his own barrage of questions.
Yeah, but I'm here as Secretary General of Koftu.
Oh, you are here as a representative of the workers.
Yes.
So you are leaving Patrick alone this evening. Finally, Council Sarah Birete. She is a member of this show, the Behind the Headlines. Sarah, you're most welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Charles, and good evening, viewers.
Good. I earlier spoke about, let's start from Patrick.
Yes.
I need to be fair with you and to the NSSF to start from asking you what the facts are as far as you're concerned. Is it true that the minister has requisitioned, not requisitioned, the minister has influenced or forced you to requisition for 6 billion shillings to fund activities that will lead to ramping up or improving numbers of members?
The answer is no.
So why the news?
I'll then explain. People hear things, misunderstand it, twist it, do whatever they want to do. But these are the facts.
Yeah.
In June, when we presented the budget,
June last year,
2022,
Yeah.
because that's when our budget for the next year is basically approved. And the background to that is in January, the president assented to the new law, the
the
amendment.
2022 Amendment Act.
Exactly.
Good.
It offered for the fund actually new opportunities. Up until January, the only people who could go and try to make them become members of NSF were people who worked for employers with more than 5 employees. What the amendments did, it now opened up to every Ugandan, whether in the formal or informal sector, to become part of NSSF. When we took the budget to the minister in June, she challenged us, and it was a very interesting challenge.
Which minister?
The
Gender,
minister,
finance?
the Minister of Gender.
Okay.
Because that's where the docket is right now.
Yeah.
There are a couple questions she asked. She said, you know what? Right now, NSF has about 1.3 million members with balances in NSSF. You claim your purpose as NSSF is to make lives better for Ugandans by making savings a way of life. How can you claim you want to make lives better by making savings a way of life if there are about 15 million Ugandans, working age Ugandans, who do not have any kind of long-term retirement savings? And she raised 4 questions that we hadn't really considered. And I can give you why we hadn't considered that. Part of it is basically, remember, right after January, we got into the midterm, and there was a clamor for the midterm, which I think we delivered quite well. She raised examples. Okay, I don't see initiatives that tap into, say, the informal sector, for example. We have about 250,000 young ladies and men in the Middle East. They want to save. How are you going to reach them? What are you doing with Minister of Foreign Affairs to be able to do that? Another question that she raised, which was very, very legitimate, you've got stakeholders. How well have we used, say, the labor inspectors who have reached across the country to help with the compliance? When she raised those issues, she said, no, we need initiatives shaped around this. She directed us to go back and think through that. We did. When we went back, out of the budget for this year, we then allocated 6 billion shillings to basically fund those activities. That was the background towards it. It has taken us a while. 2 things have happened. It has taken us a while to develop the implementation plan for it, the work plan for it. In November, we presented that plan both to the board and to the minister. I think we are ready to go. But we couldn't even roll it out yet because we needed to make sure that the regulations that will guide voluntary savings are in place. The draft has been made with First Parliamentary Council. I think should be coming out maybe hopefully by the end of this month. After that, then we can begin to allow, basically we have a guideline where anybody, about a guy, a market vendor, that lady in Dubai, if they want to save with the fund, the regulations place. That is what it was actually all about.
So
it is not going to be
clarification.
Yes.
We need to get it right.
Yeah.
The clarification is that there is 6 billion shillings budgeted for activities to ramp up membership or contributors,
Right.
but it was not done amidst this confusion
No.
of Biarugaba. Should he come back?
No.
Should he not?
This is way
it
back
was earlier.
Way back in June. Yes.
Okay. Now, who is supposed to undertake these activities?
NSSF.
NSSF.
Yes.
Not the minister, as we are told.
No, because there are a lot of stakeholders who are involved in that. For example, if we are going to go to the diaspora, we need to involve the Ministry of Foreign Affairs because they have embassies in terms of what they do. If we are going to enter, the other things that to force compliance, look at all the MDAs. For example, UIA, they give licenses to companies here. We want them to say, before you renew that license, please make sure they have NSF clearance when they do. So we have a number of agencies that we have to partner with to deliver this thing.
So can I ask you to commit, Patrick?
Yes.
And by the way, something that I need to tell the viewer, a disclaimer, and that I should also declare my interest, that I am a contributor to NSSF, and so if I ask tough questions or tougher questions, they should also understand me, because I have my money there, so I have an interest. Patrick, do you want to assure the public, the savings group, the saver, that you are not going to use NSSF money to fund government officials, including ministers and other government officials who otherwise should be facilitated by the consolidated fund through their ministries?
Correct.
That if that happens, you will be held responsible.
Yes.
Can you tell the viewer that?
Actually, that is the whole intent of it. Now, we invite, say, the Minister of Finance, for example, that, okay, we are going to this event. He will attend in his capacity as the minister. He will represent whatever he needs, and he goes back. It is solely the objectives to increase coverage and increase compliance, and that I can assure the public.
Okay, good. Thank you. And we shall hold you by your word.
Okay.
You know, when we have been discussing these things, people tell you, Patrick is a nice guy. But we don't trust the people that he's taking instructions from. I will be honest with you. You have the benefit of doubt.
Thank you.
So better be ready for the reverberations when they come.
Yes.
Let me go to Honorable Yomoki. Sam, you are a board member. And in this whole discussion and hullabaloo, let me call it for lack of a better word, the news reports of people giving us information are saying, actually, the board did not receive this budget, as Patrick is saying, until Richard Biarugaba, let me call him for now, the outgoing MD, disagreed with his minister in charge of gender. That is when trouble started, and that is when the media started hearing about the 6 billion. Is that true or not true?
No,
what do you know from the board that you sit on?
Okay.
You have your own moment on the show.
But also workers are watching.
Yes.
And workers are watching.
Yeah, that's the record. Yes.
They vote for you.
Yes. Yeah. First of all, I want also to say what you said. I'm a saver with the fund. And you remember my last days in Parliament. I've been there. I was there for 25 years, and my last days was pushing for this law. And I never knew that I would even be part of that board because I didn't have any intentions. And so when I was not in Parliament, workers came to me, I remember many, and said, why can't you represent us? Now, you invited me here as Secretary General of COFT.
As a worker.
As a worker. Now, you are pushing me to do things of the board.
Because you know it.
Yes, I'm a member of the board, but I want to talk as a worker.
Yeah.
Yes, but who is of course representing workers in the board. You asked a question whether that issue of 6 billion came up and then
if it was on the original budget as it were.
Now,
or it came just recently.
No, I think let me give you the facts. What happened was we are new members of the board.
Yeah.
So the budget was brought for us to approve. And of course, as new members, we do not look at many things, you know, because when you're a new member, I think sometimes you as an oversight.
Yeah.
Because also we actually got shocked when we realized that when the minister was saying we did not cater for some activities. So the procedure is that the management comes off the budget, they pass it to the board, after the board goes to the minister, and the minister approves. Now, in the process of approval, we learned that there was a challenge. The minister was asking for certain activities that were not within the budget.
That's what the minister was asking?
Yeah, that's what we got here. There were some activities and all that, and the management had been given time to go back to the minister and to do that. And we, of course, we would get this information, not officially, but we would get. Then finally, we learned from the board when the minister now writes a letter that we have been meeting with you as the management, and of course there are certain activities she put aside, land and others which had some question mark. But on this one, he says on the understanding that you will include the 6 billion for you to do the mobilization to expand social security.
That is the condition the minister was giving.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Now, of course, for us, we knew, yes, we have to include, and that inclusion was for the fund to work with other partners, not necessarily the ministry. Okay. That was it, yes. So it looked a very simple and very innocent. And actually, for us as workers, we are 4 workers, members on the board. We said, I think this is any sort of vote of no confidence in us, because that is something we would have brought up, but we said, okay, we are new members of the board, I think this is good. So we thanked the minister for that. We said, I think she's a good minister, because she's like working as a board. So for us, actually, it was like, this is a good minister, because she has done what we as members of the board should have seen. But of course, the excuse was that we are new and all that. So we said, fine, I think next year we shall be better. But we thanked her for having assisted us as a board. And also,
when was this?
That was
when is this discussion happening?
The discussion takes place, of course, we start with strategic meetings, I think, in February. And then we move on up to about June. And that's when you start now going, after a while, by June, we should have sorted it out, and then they start taking it to the minister after June for approval. So this was now at the tail end, but we said as board would have already realized this. And actually, that one gave us the sort of like the encouragement that now we are going to be a bit more alert. Because, I mean, if you're a member of such a board and then you're points out something, you realize
someone else giving you ideas
and which are good,
which you should be generating.
So we said, okay, I think we should forgive ourselves because we are new, but with this time we should not, in the next budget, if such a thing happens, then maybe we shall be even worth it to be told to resign. That's what we took up and said, okay, we thank the minister for having woken us up. I remember when we were in Geneva, we went for IRO, and the minister was saying, hey, but you, doctor, you have been a member of parliament. Why did you do this? And then I said, look, I'm sorry, madam, but I think there was some oversight. So for me, as far as I know, that was the issue. We were supposed to have put that in the budget. Now, so the board, of course, decided that that should be put in the budget, and then the management should come up with the activities or the implementation plan that should be able to be brought to the board. And that's what we have been doing. Actually, up to about in December, we had the meetings in November, end of November. We had meetings to look at the details. And that was even before this issue of the new war and all that. And for your information, the budgets are done by a committee. We have committees. They will have the committee on finance and another on projects. So my colleagues on that committee were doing it. Now for me, I chair the committee called the SACA, Staff Administration and Corporate Affairs. That does the issues of approval of our contracts. So we're also doing this other thing.
Contract, you mean like human resource?
Yeah, like the one you are talking about, the one of the DMD, the one of MD, we're the ones doing it separate committee, and then finally it goes to the main board. Yeah, so these were the independent processes that were really moving on independently. The other committee trying to look at the budget more and then bring back to the board, while for us we are looking at other human resource issues. Because we are also undertaking the organization redesign. We realized that there was need for the organization to change in the way it has been operating, given the new mandate and the new scope. So basically, for me, it was a shock when again we started hearing that outside their members, people are saying the minister was forcing the management of the board to give money to her. Or actually, others were even saying that the money has already been given. You know, it was a bit so disgusting and a shock. And of course, I remember even there's a stage when I even stopped following even the social media because, you know, sometimes when there's
stopped following social media because of this?
Yeah, when people are talking a lot of things, negative energy, sometimes I think you just switch off and say, I think for this month I will not even look there. Because people are, you know, some people volunteer, they say the man has been given a lot of things coming up, you know, all new information. We have the letter, you know. So I said, okay, maybe it is not necessary to go into that, and, you know. So basically, the reality is that there was that process, and the minister guided, which I thought the wisdom of Parliament was to say the board, the board actually in the law, they don't even talk about the management. They said the board they will submit the budget to the minister for approval.
Okay.
So you mentioned the board, they mentioned the minister.
Okay.
So I think the minister was doing her mandate, and the board also was doing her mandate when that matter came back to us. So I think, for me, I thought it was something that was...
So you see no problem with it at all?
Yeah. But of course, it becomes a problem.
Are you satisfied as a worker?
Yes.
As a contributor?
Yes, yes.
As a worker representative? And a member of the board? Are you satisfied with the processes going on right now in the management of the board,
in terms of
the fund?
Yes, of course, the issue which came up, which I realized maybe it was good that the population was raising it and the workers, would be in the implementation. Because you see, you can easily, you know, if you are not alert, when the implementation comes, you can again start funding government officials. You know, that would be the challenge there. But
that's why I
that would be a challenge, yeah, but you see, yeah.
That should that happen, whether now or later, we will hold him responsible.
But I think because of what has happened, the sort of vigilance of the workers and everyone to assist us as the board, because maybe that is the challenge. You remember, one of the fears we have been having as the members and savers is the government wanting to put their hands into
which has not happened.
Okay.
So how it has not happened. So
which is what we will be discussing it as well. Some of them border on legalities. That's why I am glad that Council Fiona accepted to come and share with us her thoughts. Council Fiona, these things that the news that you see about workers, you know, contributions, the legal aspects of them, especially, are they normal? In your view, where should we start where should the worker start to have their fears really, you know, taken seriously, and how do we go about this?
Well, as a worker, first of all, I've been concerned and alarmed. This is the first time I'm hearing some of the submissions here, because what's in the media is completely different. I think there's even an interview by the NOTU chairman, which was saying completely different things. And for me, if I may, because coming to this place, we're talking about what we've been seeing. And I want to be allowed to be a little generalistic. Why? Because we're being told a different story here. But one thing that we have seen, and that's the elephant in the room right now, is the governance issue when it comes to parastatals and MDS and the ministry. We've had so many incidences of ministries disputing with MDS and how they should spend money, and parastatals. And what this does is it causes so much friction at the expense of the taxpayer. Now, we have ministries that even have departments that do the same thing as the MDA. And those petty fights cause so much loss. Now, when you have Mr. Lyomoki, I don't want to refer to you when it comes to workers right now because you're a board member. I know you have many things that are tying you down. But when you have the chairman of NOTU saying there is this happening, workers' money, there's a risk. You saw COVID, you saw what happened. Yes, this year I think our interest was less.
We came down by almost 2.5.
Came down, and it came down.
We got only 9.6.
The very same year.
And last year we got 12.
Yes, and it came down to 9. Very painful. And this is the same year that you are passing a law that is making poor Fiona, or my lawyers, let me talk for my lawyers. Their law firms, they've always had 4 people. They used not to qualify.
We know.
Now you're telling this lawyer to suddenly pay NSSF for 4 people, you know, when he's paying maybe 200,000 to his people, because the economy has been bad. COVID-19 destroyed professions like legal profession, architects, the professionals who are staying in small offices and trying to manage things, because these services were the first that the corporates took off their budgets, right? So we're dealing with a very laboring economy. It's limping, and then workers wake up to news like this. And the reason we were alarmed is this is not the first time we've seen it. We've seen this in Ministry of Lands, we've seen this in Ministry of, we've seen it in many, many ministries, and we've seen CEOs fed like this. Now, if I may come from a corporate governance point of view, ministries serve a political purpose, and they serve an administrative role, but the technical nuances of administering something as huge as a fund that is listed, you know, that has serious regulatory requirements, that the technical expertise that is required cannot be taken very lightly and allowed to be interfered with politically. Then there are processes, because I really like it when a minister is forward-thinking and they're innovative, as Mr. Lyomoki says, and they're actually thinking about how are you going to implement the strategic plan. But there are processes. If a stakeholder has suggestions, these suggestions come to management and they're transformed into policies that are then approved by the board. I do not know, I'm seeing a lot of things that would make me uncomfortable as a governance professional and trainer, that you would have conversations between ministry and management where the board is not, and then documents are circulated, and then at the point where the minister is supposed to approve, they are giving conditions. Because I understand that, yes, we have to implement this thing. I remember as President Law Society then, in my past life, when this bill was passed, I was one of the people fighting it. Because we understand our problems in this economy. When this bill was passed, we went to NSSF, we came, they hosted us, and we said, if you are going to implement this, can you roll out? Can you not do it immediately, because the economy is limping? So I do not see why even a program like this that is being proposed, the 6 billion, cannot be rolled out, cannot be brought in a supplementary budget. But if you tell me that that NSSF does not have a budget as of June because a minister refused to sign because there's a condition that there are certain things that are not there, that's a governance issue. In South Africa, we've had SABC, we have had South African Airlines, they've been completely destroyed because of these fights between ministry and the technical administration. And I think that we need, Mr. Dongto, I will be very disappointed in you, my brother-in-law, if we do not address this elephant in this room. There's a governance issue here, and how we deal with this will set an example or a precedent for how we deal with what's currently happening in other MDAs and ministries. So from a governance perspective, I think we need to address the procedures. What's happening? What's happening at the ministry that is causing the board member, Mr. Lyomoki, to doubt himself to the extent that now, because what they're saying is that there's no budget from June to December.
To be honest,
I'm just trying to understand.
I didn't actually know that Honorable Lyomoki stammers. Here he was starting to stammer. And I was watching both what he's saying and the body language.
And
that's why I asked him, do you think you are satisfied
Exactly.
with whatever is going on there? I asked it for a reason.
Yes,
because I
and-
was reading his body language.
And if I may say something else, when there are issues to be even investigated, and now I'll go into other things that I've seen. Even when there are issues to be investigated, that investigation needs to come maybe from the board that has seen the reports of management, that has received, because even when the politicians get reports, they should report them to the board, then the board investigates these things, assigns maybe a committee of the board to look into them, then gives a report to the authority they report to. It is then that things like investigations should be, But I believe that NSSF is such a sensitive fund. It is one of the few, and I'll say this, it's one of the few successes we've had in the past few years. And it is too sensitive for us to allow these kinds of issues or to come in. They say that there's something in Proverbs, I think, that talks about the little foxes. We should not allow the little foxes to come and eat our grain. And these little foxes are the fights that we're seeing. These little foxes are the governance issues. Governance has destroyed organizations across the world. I've actually dedicated the rest of my life to teaching governance because I believe that Africa has everything, but governance has eluded us. And we need to learn from that.
Okay, I know that Sarah is itching to, you are a host in a way. I needed to first, you first hold your fire. I know that your colleague Fiona has really tickled you. But let's first get Honorable Omara's view, especially now Fiona has brought in new perspectives. The issue of governance, including interferences, and she has actually alluded to the fact that even a workers' representative is stammering, is tongue-tied and almost failing to explain, to tell the truth that there is actually interference.
I don't think she's the one who said
that actually they, as board, as management, failed to see a low-hanging fruit, and it takes a minister to come and start directing that with even conditions. And I know that he found it hard to say it, but that is what he has actually told us. But Honorable Omara, the concerns, are we satisfied with the topic actually is the workers' money safe with NSSF? Maybe you should start asking those questions directly so that when we finalize with Sarah, Patrick can pick up from there on the responses.
Thank you, Charles. I'm now speaking forth. I've got the benefit of listening to my panelists here. I would want to say that after the amendment of the NSSF Act, it opened a window for a broad range of workers to start saving with the NSSF. And therefore, if you listen to the panelists, the proposal by the minister was basically to take full advantage of that and broaden the fund. What was important is that, can we now grow this fund, this 17.9 trillion fund, into something bigger?
Huge, the biggest in the region.
Exactly, because by the way, the NSSF fund, if you look at it, take it as a percentage of our national budget, is actually 37% of the country's national budget. It's huge.
It's huge.
So I agree with Fiona that it's a sensitive fund, it is huge. But let me come to the point which Fiona has raised. I think nothing stops the minister from providing guidance to the board and management on matters such as this. Now, if you look at section 4, subsection 3 of the NSSF Act, it gives the board powers to invest the money in secure, profitable, and effective financial management of the fund for the benefit of workers, in particular, and the country at large. So, on the corporate governance issues, I think there is something there. I am being, actually, as a corporate governance guru as well, I'm seeing a form of a dysfunction of a board. Because if something is agreed with the minister, that this is something that has to be undertaken to increase the deposit of the fund, and the board has accepted, then they needed to actually own it.
Yeah.
There cannot be disparity in terms of the views of the board. And I think also the gap which I see was communication. A moment this matter had come up, I think the chairman of the board should have come out clearly to explain the circumstance, actually as Director Parekh is doing, the circumstances under which this matter was agreed, and how the 6 billion shillings is going to be executed, and to come with clarity that this money will not benefit any politician. It will be executed by NSSF within the domain of NSSF, and this would be the outcome. They have to quantify those outcomes. And I think it's a part of your strategy, Mr. MD, that this is what you want to do in the financial year. But what you see is a quiet board, each member of the board speaking differently.
Sure.
A board cannot speak, a member of the board cannot speak unilaterally, especially to the media. It should be the chairman coming up with an agreed position by the board as a corporate entity. So I would want to send a message to my friend, Peter, the chairman of the board. Just PK.
And he's a corporate governance.
And he's a corporate governance guru.
He's a nice guy.
He's a nice guy.
He's
So
a nice guy.
you cannot allow your board members just to go and speak carelessly. On a matter like this, with a huge fund like this, which is very sensitive, which is 37% of our national budget, and there is a confusion and miscommunication, and you keep quiet. So I think for me, I want to agree with Fiona that there's a corporate governance issue, and it's not about the minister. Because if the minister comes and gives a proposal, and you feel it cannot be undertaken, the Act gives you the responsibility to invest this money profitably in such a manner that will give the benefits to the workers and to the country. The mandate is with you. The Act gives you the mandate.
Sure.
And so that's what I want to say on the matter, that it is basically a failure of communication and a failure of a board not functioning as one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sarah, pick it from there. The other thing that has been thrown into the discussion is the question of the perception now. Are we dealing with just a perception question issue, or are we dealing with suspicion, mistrust within, and being seen from outside? If the board cannot explain simple things that are supposed to be simple, is it just because the communication is failing, or it is because there are lots of things that the Leomokis, the Patrick's, Iotas are not telling us? What is your reading? What is your view? What are you hearing? What is behind the headlines?
I want to concentrate on the body language of my neighbor.
And you really watched him.
So, Honorable Yomochi, as he was speaking, the devil is always in the details. When he was explaining the movement, the discussions with the minister, you could see some element of being tongue-tied. The minister said this, because let's go to the basics of budgeting. Budgeting, it's the user department that raises a budget or determines the cost. Then the committee is talking about, the committee on budget from the board should assess the budget of the user department. So you have a situation where the minister says, add 6 billion. How did she arrive at the cost? Is she a user? Yes, you can say, I think you should do this activity. But as a minister, you cannot come out with the money. Add 6 billion. How did she arrive at that amount?
Okay.
I know.
Then you come to the board, and then we discussed, and then we actually said they saw the wisdom of the minister. This is the story in all its bogus schemes in this country. You have discovered the wisdom.
We saw the light.
Yes. This is the story that Ugandans have had over the endemic corruption in this country. Who is the user department? Who determines the amount? Who determines the implementation roadmap of that activity? And if the board thought, maybe because of the COVID effects of the economy, and because, you know, when you look at the evidence, the economy is recovering from COVID. Even evidence is in the drop on the interest of the savers. There are lots of jobs. The recent UBOS report on employment, 1% Ugandans earn above 1 million. 60% earn 200,000. When you go to the industrial parks that the minister was talking about today, 75% of workers in the industrial parks are casual laborers who earn every day 5,000, 10,000. Even when you go to the statement issued today at the media center, you see that things are not adding up. The explanation from the board member, the explanation in the media statement, the whole thing that you are trying to weave it around and tie it on the man of the savers, it is not adding up. It is easier to say good statements and try to appear, do public relations as if things are okay. But let's go back to the basics of budgeting, user department, roadmap, preparedness to implement, and timing of the economy. This activity does not add up.
Okay.
So you better tell workers the truth. Because as much as you try to hide the things, tomorrow the truth will be revealed. Away from that, I've just connected from the statements of the gentleman here. Please go back and reflect. It is not too late. You've not spent this money. We know the ghosts that have haunted the fund. Don't repeat these ghosts to Ugandans. Please. So when you go to the stories in the public domain, there is no smoke without fire. Otherwise, what is the origin of the smoke? So you have media reporting a request for the Grain Council of Uganda, 40 billion rejected. You have media reporting, and for us as members of the public, we are not going to camp, all of us, to sit at NSSF to determine the truth. NSSF is a public fund that is accountable to people. If there is publicity out there, if you know it is not true, you better rebut it. Otherwise, don't expect Ugandans to start dreaming that you have another story to tell. So you have a request for 40 billion for Grain Fund Council of Uganda, rejected by the then team. Good enough, Mr. Ayota was part of, he was still the substantive deputy of Mr. Byarugaba. So even when Mr. Byarugaba is not in office, his substantive deputy is in office. So you have a media report about the 6 billion, also rejected. Then when Byarugava's contract is not renewed, it is immediately incorporated in the budget by the acting MD and then approved that. So we don't know whether implementation is going on or not in the short period. And the procedures. When you go to the details of the fund, the procedures are not followed according to what has been said. The basics of budgeting, like Madam Fiona has stated, even if the need was realized and agreed with, first of all, you can't raise a need and attach a budget. You are not the user. The need is raised, let the board process. Then you can ask the user department to determine the visibility of the idea, however good it is. And then the user department raises a budget. It can come as a supplementary. So this business of saying we've discovered the wisdom, I've been an MP, how could we not have this wisdom? No. It can't apply. That's just a cosmetic story. So I think my submission to Charles is that we should be honest. Ugandans, good enough, they are vigilant, and with the new technology, you cannot hide much. You can try to issue good statements, but the truth will come out.
No, actually, more than that, the truth of the matter is we get more information than you can imagine. I have on my phone here, if I read for you, the information coming from your own office. From your office. People who you send, drop this to 4th floor, they first pass by some of us and drop with us, and then they move to drop to the recipient. So I think, like Sarah says, there is need to be more honest. Let's start now. Usually what we do, and we can now try to do that, once we have had the first beginning comments, then we can now start having, let's have open conversation as we now move forward. We have about 10 minutes to the break, so we can still have discussions. Starting, Patrick, as Sarah commented, she referred to the ghosts of NSSF. NSSF has had issues. I don't even want to start lining them. You know, this scandal, this MD lives through Luzira, this one, then this one is, and their perception issues, really, their perception issues. And one of the things we thought that we should be discussing now, yes, reputational issues, and perception. Yes, and you cannot run away from them. So one of the things we wanted to ask you is the big question: is the workers' fund safe in your hands? Give us that assurance. That's one. Two, the minister had referred to a miracle, which again you said was a mistaken report. When the minister was quoted, I think addressing a press conference at Media Center, saying that this 6 billion was meant, or is, you know, the goal is to ramp up membership, you know, contributions from 1.3 to about 15 million in the next 5 years or 3 years. And you said we just need that clarification. And then you share with us briefly how you want to do it, the plans for NSSF. Let's discuss that.
Thank you very much. I think you've raised the key important issues. The good news is now I may have to disclose certain things, kind of respond to both what Fiona raised and what Sarah has raised. In terms of budget process, a budget process is a negotiation. Management raises a budget, they go to the board. The board can push back and say, you didn't do this, we don't want to, you can't spend that much, you can't do this, and so on. So then there's a reconciled position. And for NSF, it doesn't stop there. There is another layer. You go to the minister, and she can push back. To just help you, this communication, the formal communication is between the chairman of the board and the minister, which is the right thing to do.
Yes.
So even when she's writing and pushing back, it is that is happening there. It's only that when the technical matters are coming through, and this answering the Councillor Sarah's question, the numbers and the figures, we are in her office, we are the ones who offered those numbers.
The 6 billion.
Not her. Yes. Because there were 4 initiatives, we broke them down in what the broad themes would occur. So that came from us as management team. That's what we did. So when you get to know that, you actually realize that the process was actually followed. You get the budget, then what Director Honorable Moki talked about. Now we became down to come up with an implementation plan, which now breaks down what we are going to do.
May I clarify something so that he answers it as,
go ahead,
wholesomely? The concern here in that process is that Honorable Yomoki, who is a board member, says the minister comes back to us and asks us this.
Yeah.
And I want to respect his position as a board member.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then when he asks, when she asks, the board doesn't seem to have been aware of the conversation of these things, because this conversation was done with management.
And they said it's
I think
No. I'm just.
Okay, but
how
I think
you
I would
said.
rather.
But also, we
Yes.
have seen, especially in the media, the letter. The letter somehow pointed to the fact that we've had discussions, this and this was supposed to be done, and it clarifies. And it's the communication, I think you raised it, the way things are being communicated and who is communicating, and that's why I'm saying that it might be, the process might be done well, but the perceptions, what's out there, what's being allowed to be.
That letter is
But before
addressed to the
Patrick, I think
chairman.
before Patrick, you said, let me
Yes.
clarify this. You see, what I was stating, I'm stating the principles. I was going to the details because you see, you are seeing that there was a meeting. I stated them. I referred to the meeting in the management with the board. I mean, with the minister. Noted that the management went alone. Actually, the minister writes to the chairman, then the chairman goes there, and then because he has to explain certain things, he goes with the management. Now, when I'm trying to explain, when I was explaining, I was just giving you, I mean, you know the difference that men and women will go into details,
Yes.
but men will tell you what happened, this.
And not only women,
Yeah.
even me, I also want to see the details.
Thank you.
So
Gender out of
let's
So
get
for me,
out
so
of this.
when I said there was this actually a lot of meetings between the chairman actually with the minister, and then they say now the chairman has to go with the board. I mean the members of the management, and then some of the information which I was speaking, I get it from either the chairman or whatever, not even the board meeting. Then okay, the meeting takes place. So there are a lot of things that took place. But as far as I'm concerned, I really am very sure that the process was being followed.
That a divided board, which is what you are saying, is a reflection of something not happening there. And I really, sorry I interrupted you. I just wanted you to twist and cover also those things.
There is a difference between a robust board that can have dissenting voices. Dissenting voice in a board is actually healthy for a board.
The problem is
You
this
need to
is
be able-
outside the board.
No, but you see the thing is, if you listen to what was outside the board and we're clarifying it to you, what you had, I tell people an interesting thing that, see, UBC, if UBC coughs, we are going to say, that's a small cough. When NSSF coughs, we think it's Ebola.
Exactly.
Because the public interest
Yes.
organization.
Yes.
But then when you just look at the process, in fact, the robustness of it, the discussions that have gone place, the very fact that even up to now, we've not even rolled that because we can't do it without regulations, tells that there's a process in place that we are following. And it's really, really key to get that, because you come back to the other question you raised. Some of you are asking the question about a drop in interest rates to 9.65%.
Despite the fact that you increased your base.
No, this is what happened.
Legislatively.
This is what happened. When the midterm amendment was passed,
Yes.
we used to invest most of everything. We had kind of followed it upon time.
Yeah.
We know what we need to invest in: 5-year bonds, 10-year bonds, 15-year bonds. When the midterm came, as we were planning for it, we needed to begin planning for cash flows. We didn't know how many of the people would come. We know how many was eligible. About 1 trillion could have come. So there's about 1 trillion shillings that we kind of now began to invest in short-term investments in preparation for midterm. Because we didn't want midterm to come and members accuse us, either we don't want to pay them or we can't pay them because of liquidity. Investing in short-term interests shaved off a certain percentage of interest that we had. Because if you remember, short-term rates were around 9%, whereas the long-term were 15%. That impacted what was available for us. Do we regret it? No, because the most amazing thing is, if you notice in the midterm, we were able to pay some of the midterm within 3 days. It was really incredible. We paid, in the months of March and April, we paid 450 billion shillings to 22,000 members.
And this works, so why are we fixing it?
And which one?
This whole NSSF stuff.
Charles, Charles, I want to come here, and I think Patrick will give us a much broader detail about it. And the big question you've asked is the savers' money safe?
With him.
With him.
Yeah.
And if you look at the portfolio of NSSF, almost 78% they are in
bonds.
They're in bonds, the tradable securities. 15% is on
equities.
On equities, and then about 7 is on mortgages. So which means the more risky assets, which actually gives them almost little or negative, has 7%. And most of the money, where the money comes from, is actually in the tradable securities, in the bonds. Now, so which means a big chunk of that money is secure, and the bonds are within the East African region. It's either in Kenya or Tanzania or here. So that fund is safe. The question now would be profitability, because for I think the last 3 years, NSSF has been able to give a return on investment beyond inflation. So that is a critical issue. If you have a fund which is not giving you a return higher than inflation, it means you're losing money. So I think in terms of the aggregation and the investment portfolio, we are safe. And I don't know whether they can do much more beyond what they're doing.
But also this explains part of the problem.
Yes.
If you can explain that in 1 minute, why can't they explain in a year? Let's go for a break right now. We need to go for a break. And then we come back. Let's go for a break. Okay.
Sent to transport to the wrong person. Here's how to reverse it with MTN Mobile Money. Dial *165#. Select My Account. Select Initiate Reversal. You will see your last 3 transactions. Select the transaction you want to reverse. Enter your mobile money PIN, and you'll get an SMS confirmation that the transaction has been blocked from being withdrawn. And that's it. Please note, only transactions that haven't been withdrawn can be reversed.
Do you need data collection services, data analysis and reporting, monitoring and evaluation systems? Then contact Mult Technologies, a professional research firm that has provided many organizations with timely research solutions for over 15 years. For more information, visit www.mt.co.ug or call us on 0704 913 399 or 0782 602 963. Visit our office in Kampala at Sayuni Complex in Tinda. Mult Technologies, your professional research firm.
Paying your bills the old way.
Let's go. Just need to buy some power.
Paying your bills with the My Airtel app.
Bro, there's a line.
You have the power in your pocket. The power to instantly pay your bills hassle-free. Unlock that power with the My Airtel app. Visit the App Store or Google Play now.
Oh, you're back.
The Ministry of Health reminds the public that Ebola is real and we must do whatever is required to prevent getting new cases. We therefore encourage everyone to remain vigilant and not to relax on Ebola. The symptoms of Ebola include sudden onset of fever, severe headache, muscle pain, weakness, sore throat, vomiting, bloody diarrhea, and in some cases, bleeding from the body openings. Please seek medical help from your nearest health center if you detect any Ebola symptoms. The sooner you start treatment, the higher your chances of survival. Please inform your nearest health center if you identify anyone with such symptoms. To prevent Ebola from spreading, follow the Ministry of Health and World Health Organization guidelines on Ebola. Wash your hands regularly with clean water and soap. Ensure safe and dignified burials of Ebola victims. Avoid handshaking and hugging. For more information on what you need to know and do concerning Ebola, please call toll-free 0800 100 066 or SMS 8500.
This message is brought to you by the Ministry of Health with support from the United Nations Development Programme, UNDP, and in partnership with the Interreligious Council of Uganda, Buganda Kingdom and Kampala Capital City Authority.
Over the years, we've dreamed to get onto the world stage. We've had that dream crushed. We've witnessed a total defeat of what could have been our greatest moment. We've felt our spirits go up, only to take a hard fall. We've had our fires burn out and leave only scars. We've seized the wind and had it pulled from our grasp. We've seen pain and we've seen loss of the last fragments of hope. But we are made of resilience, and resilience never stops dreaming. So we will dream even bigger with the Cranes Cup Bowl 2026. Together, let's take Uganda to the next FIFA World Cup.
Together, let's take Uganda to the next FIFA World Cup. For every Now Special you buy, we will give 50 shillings to the Uganda Cranes 2026 fund. You will also get the chance to choose how the Cranes Cup Bowl contributions are spent. Now Special, official beer of the FIFA World Cup and official beer partner of the Uganda Cranes.
Alcohol is not for sale to persons under 18. Please drink responsibly.
Are you tired of high fees and slow transfer time when sending money? Look no further. Airtel Money is here to revolutionize the way you move your money. We have revised our rates, and now sending money from Airtel to other networks in Uganda, East Africa, and to the rest of the world has never been more affordable. Plus, you can trust Airtel Money to get your money where it needs to go quickly and safely. Simply dial *185# and start sending money. Switch to Airtel Money today and experience unbeatable rates and top-notch services for all your local and international money transfer needs. Airtel Money. Instant, secure, borderless.
Welcome back from the rest, from the break. This is Behind the Headlines on UBC here, and we are discussing the issues around NSSF, and the question is the workers' money safe with NSSF? In the studio, we have the NSSF Acting Managing Director, Mr. Ayota Patrick. We have in the studio Senior Counsel Fiona Wall. We have Honorable Paul Omara, MP. We have Workers MP from Koftu, Honorable Dr. Lyomoki. And we have Council Sarah Birete, and discussing the matters around NSS. Before we went for the break, we had given the space for Mr. Ayota to respond to some of the issues. The question of whether or not the workers' money is safe, you hadn't responded to, and but also you hadn't responded to the important question by Fiona, the issue of governance, the governance issues question, as well as political interferences. Okay. And Sarah had talked about the ghosts in NSSF, and we need answers around that. The question of perceptions and how they are denting the, you know, and you see, there is one thing that we have to underline. NSSF for many years went through a lot of, you know, dented image, a lot of dented reputation. And it took a lot for management around the years, and also the goodwill of the contributors to return it to some normalcy, which it had been riding on now. Then there is this now that is starting again. And this is coming just against the backdrop of plans to, you know, try to ramp up membership and all that. Isn't that problematic, Patrick?
Okay. I wanted to add one simple question for Mr. Ayota so that he responds at once. Mr. Ayota, it would be good for the viewers to know, one, is this 6 billion, was it approved by the board? Do you have a board resolution regarding the 6 billion? Two, is there a work plan for this 6 billion with the approval of the board?
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
I'll start. Is the workers' money safe? And we're going to look at it at 3 levels. And I'm glad Honorable Mara kind of actually articulated at the investment level. What we invested the money in ensures the safety of member funds. Just the numbers for you to get. The total assets of the fund today is 17.9 trillion shillings. Against those assets are member claims or member liabilities of 17.8 trillion shillings. It tells you the fund is fully funded. In other words, if we liquidate the fund today, every member would be paid back. What they put in, what the employer put in, what NSSF has put in as interest. That's a given. Number 2, so at the investment level, the money is safe. At the operational level, NSSF is almost like a bank, where each member has each individual member has got a statement that shows how much their balances are. You can check your balance today, compare it to last week, and know whether or not there's been a movement in your statement. That's actually how you know whether or not your money is still there or not. If you go to a bank and you find that, wait, I had 1 million shillings last week, I didn't come here, I didn't touch any money, but it has dropped to 800,000. You then raise a complaint. What has happened to my money? Same kind of principle we have now with NSSF, that a member can actually know whether or not the claim, the balances that we have are reflecting what they expect. Now, there may be once in a while where you find where the balance is not the same. It could be an honest error. We trace it, find it, and protect the member's money. So at operational level, even the member himself can have assurances that the balances he has not changed or taken away. And that reflects the assurance we give the members at a very operational level. And then the policy level, which now we come now to there, the politicians and so on. Actually, one of the things that you really want to do, those 3 parties, because they are named in law, you can't say I will do without the policymakers. It's the way in which you engage them that matters. Like you pointed out rightly, the board has responsibilities, management has responsibilities, so do the ministers. The intersection of those 3 makes the fund run properly. So I'm comfortable with that actually we do have things in place that have helped us. Now, the thing I want to comment a bit on what Fiona said and also what Sarah raised. What Sarah raised. Fiona said something that is a bit shocking, that the amendment forced employers with less than 5 employees to begin saving for their employees. Okay, hold on. In a hard economy, the question is it a bad thing? The answer is, think of your employee who's worked for you for the last 10 years, they walk away from you with no savings. And that comes, there's a responsibility we have, a moral responsibility for every employer to ensure that they actually do something to help their employee. Don't look at the short-term impact of the economy is slowing down, the economy has slowed. Don't, because you will actually get that money and be able to do it if you force it. So I just want to make sure that that's very important. Then Sarah said something, said, wait a minute, the problem is you look at all these people making less than 5,000 shillings and so on and so forth. You can't even get anything from them. 1.3 million Ugandans have saved 17.9 trillion shillings with investments. That's massive. There are people who only have got 100,000 shillings as their balances. Yeah, we have those here, the other ones. You have no idea what the power of small savings can do to this country. You don't have to have a lot of money. You can have a small amount of money and save consistently, because the law of savings is not how much you make, it's how much you save. And that tomato seller in the marketplace, he has as much right to a savings plan as a corporate person. And we recognize that in NSSF now, and our mandate is, let's help Ugandans try to save. Even if you make 5,000 shillings, okay, save 500. Because it matters in the long run. Mr. Mara, who was a banker, tells the power of compound interest is amazing. 500 shillings saved every week for the next 10 years, 20 years. You won't believe what that money turns out to be. And we have to educate our guys to do that. So that comes where the change in the strategy is. That whereas in those days we kind of stuck with the corporates, now we have to look at that boda guy. We have to look at that market vendor. We have to look at them and help them save for the long term, and it will work out. The two questions that he said, there was a question that I think Sarah said there was something in the middle, 40 billion shillings in grain. That's a lie.
Okay.
There was no request from the Grain Council for 40 billion shillings. There was no request for 40 billion shillings from anybody. So it's a lie.
Okay.
I come then to the rest of the question. He said, is there a work plan? Yes, there's a work plan. Remember we said we presented this work plan.
Board resolution.
No, we presented the work plan in November to both the board and the minister.
Did the board approve?
No, wait. They gave us feedback. So we went back to modify that plan. And that plan now going to go back to the board for final approval. Because we are the implementing, but the board then approves the plan. But there's been this engagement where we are now refining that plan. I hope that has cleared it. So they know what it is. We even present the details of it just for them to meet and then go ahead and approve that plan. The one thing that I actually want to really thank Paul said, what Mr. Bara said, we Ugandans kick ourselves too much. We actually do. NSSF is 37% of GDP.
Yes.
And NSSF is pretty much owned by Ugandans.
Yes.
It's our savings that at least we Ugandans can do something right. The ghosts of the past, yes, the ghosts are there. But how many of you drive on Ginger, you drive from Kampala to Ginger, how many accidents have you run into there? Do you each time you drive, you keep on looking backwards? No, you learn from it, you go. Doesn't mean that nobody will accuse you of anything. They can. But you go ahead, you work through it. In fact, the strength of a man and a woman is not when things are smooth. It's not when things are smooth. Correct?
Yeah.
It's when things are tough.
It's when things are tough.
Yes.
And you can brush it off and move. The strength of an organization is not that thriving when things are okay. It's when it thrives when there's opposition, because it helps you learn and grind up. And this fund, I mean, I've lived in different countries, worked in different, this fund is amazingly incredible. When I tell you some of the stats, it will just shock you. I mean, the group of young people that we have working for us, could I give you a statistic?
Yes.
That just explain,
Yes.
please.
Yes.
Last year, the fund grew by about 1.7 trillion shillings. Last year. If you look at the balance sheet at the end of 2021, the balance sheet at the end of 2022, 1.8 trillion shillings. We spent about 200 billion shillings in total expenses. Now, if you think about from a budget perspective, expenses are basically where your cash is going because you are spending it for services. If I get cash and buy land, I've just changed the asset.
Yeah.
But it's the expense that go 200 billion shillings, which means for each shilling in cost that we spent, we generated 9 times the value for the fund. If you look at staff costs by themselves, we spent about 130 billion shillings. For each shilling in staff costs we spend,
yes,
we generate 13 times value for the fund. Now, if I gave you that number as a standalone, it doesn't make too much sense. But let me just compare it with our neighbors in Kenya.
Yes.
NSSF Kenya.
Yes.
Same stats. For each shilling they spent in costs, they generated 5 times value. We generated 9. For each shilling spent in staff costs in Kenya, they generated 8 times value. We generated 13 times. What makes an NSSF employee be more productive than his counterpart across? What makes the member here get more value from investing in their staff and get it over there? And I'm saying, yeah, we are not perfect. We are human beings, we are not perfect. But by and by, this fund is strong, this fund will go, this guy attracts a lot of interest, and our job is to push back. So we are always working within the law and in the interest of the member.
Okay, yes, Fiona.
Thank you very much. And I want to thank our embattled gentleman. He's embattled for this session. The hot seat is not nice, so I really admire, you're brushing this off, I admire that. But I wanted to clarify 2 things. One, there is no resolution that the 6 billion should be included in the budget.
Yeah.
Usually, I would think that the process would be this is an idea that is approved by the board, then management goes, fleshes it out and creates a work plan based on an approved budget, or approves a budget approves a budget that has a work plan attached to it. So there's a bit of
underlined.
I don't know. I'm not understanding some of that. There's been other corporate governance issues. You're saying the 40 billion was not asked for. They've been pressed things about other amounts of money of this section of the 6 billion being 6 billion being asked for. But all that might be, as you've said, maybe it's all, people just creating things. My question is, and I want to clarify, the second clarification I want to give is, when I say that it is not wise to force people who have been complying, like an industry like mine, the legal industry, has been complying, but there was an exception, right? And this exception is given for you to grow, for you to be able to break even. It's based on commercial reasoning, logical reasoning. NSSF has been very innovative, and we've got to give it to them. And I really agree with you when you say you have some of the best technical people. I've worked with your people. I totally love the innovations. They've been running programs promoting people's save. I think I've even attended some of these programs. But one of the things that is puzzling me is, and these are things we need to understand, that we're working on a company that has shareholding, national shareholding. People have shares, you have shares, I have shares. Therefore, the level of accountability, the level of transparency should just be up through the roof. So we want to know, and we have a right, and nobody should just brush things away and say these are rumors. What we want to know is, if you brashly force people, all these lawyers are going to declare that their work as a casual. Okay, I'm not, you know what I mean. Eh? There are certain things that you do when you're enforcing something that can actually sabotage you. And if you did an investigation, maybe some of the challenges we're having is how we're approaching. One of the innovations NSSF came up with a few years ago was voluntary contribution. And they made sure that it was even provided for. As we were getting comfortable, I actually participated in a campaign to get lawyers to voluntarily contribute. And then the next year, you make it compulsory. You suddenly make, and you see what happens is, if a lawyer has been, a law student, I'm telling you, if a lawyer has been earning 400,000 shillings, and they've been taking it home, and then suddenly say NSSF. Also, URA is going to come and all these things, and he's been taking it as a small allowance. So at the end, he's thinking he's taking home 200,000. I'm just talking about the realities of our economy. It can shoot NSSF in the foot. So I'm not.
She's advocating for her profession.
No, but I'm talking
She wants to circumvent the law.
No.
Actually,
Please understand me. No, listen, please. Honorable, let me speak. I am explaining the dangers of imposing a law, and my problem was not the law. My problem was imposing it immediately. Because every new law has to have a period, a transitional period where you educate, where you study the market, you look at enablers, you look at, you understand? Now, if you start saying that now you want to go for the guy who gets 5,000 shillings from the other industry, we know, yes, 70% of our income comes from the informal sector, but we also know that informal sector has to be handled very delicately. They start companies today, the next day the companies are gone. So I keep thinking that more than just increasing taxation and increasing, what is it called, over-regulating our little formal economy, we need to create enablers for the informal economy to become formal. Now, all this over-regulation can be a dangerous thing, but we cannot then over-regulate when we do not want to be properly over-governed, because there's a governance issue. When you say that you've just said that the money is safe, but then you've also explained that there's money that is in short-term things, which means that because of mid-term, we're going to lose out on our long-term earnings. It also means that people are beginning to look and think, okay, maybe we can add ideas for budgets here and there. So we're asking, can we see the clarity that this technical team you have is actually in control? I think that's the question here. Is it the politicians in control? Because if a politician can raise an issue and then someone is investigated and taken off their seat, then what is the security of tenure that you as current MD or acting MD will have for you to take proper technical decisions? Won't you be intimidated that this could also happen to you? So those are the things I'm saying that we have to look at. How is the regulation being enforced? How is the governance being handled?
Okay.
I think you understand. I'm not trying to bring that up.
And I think I wish.
Why don't I ask before Lyomoki, because the question.
I actually wanted Lyomoki to respond to some of those issues of governance as well. Being a board member. But Sarah.
Let me first ask. Charles, I'm sorry to insist, but my request is that on this panel behind the headlines, we don't rub things under the carpet.
No.
So information coming in is as follows. One is that the minister put the 6 billion request in writing, and the board members have a copy of that. It's in writing, and she determined the figure.
Wow.
Two Sarah, is that I'm raising that you
false.
Respond.
That's false. Because I told
you will respond.
No, I was very honest. We gave her the figures.
Okay, let me first ask, then you will respond.
Be honest,
no,
we gave her the figures.
I've even said that there's information coming in, meaning it's not my information. And that's why I'm raising it. It's not my information, it's information from one of the board members. The minister's request of 6 billion is in writing. And the board has not yet approved. The second information is that one of the board members has requested to spend 1 billion out of that 6 billion, and it's also in writing. And that's already direct conflict and could be part of the syndicate. The third information coming in is that the 40 billion request for Grain Council is in the minister's 20-page letter to the board chairman that she sent recently, and the board is preparing a request. This is money that you said is a lie. And
is it
so
20-page or is
she has written
19 pages?
Okay. But that 20 billion for the Grain Council is in that document. So you have these facts coming from one of the board members, name withheld.
Okay.
Is the money safe?
Okay, I will answer this. 40 billion, there has not been a request for 40 billion from Green Council or on behalf of Green Council. I can tell you that. I don't care where the source is from. There has not been a request for 40 billion from the Green Council or on behalf of the Green Council. So that is just a total lie.
I have already told you, I see a dysfunctional board. And
Honorable Yomoki, are you dysfunctional?
Yeah. I don't think.
Good question.
I think it depends on how you look at it. But I just want
I mean, all these accusations and counter claims are flying right into the face of the board.
Charles,
and I want to be fair that we do not have to. We do not need a chairperson to respond when the board member is here.
No, but you see,
so it's up to you to respond that there is a claim in your face that there is a dysfunctional board.
Okay, just one element.
Are you dysfunctional?
Now, just
I think we can forget.
Let's conclude that one of actually some board members are contemplating resignation because of unprincipled political interference in the fund. That's what I wanted to add.
Okay, and you said you cannot name the board members.
No.
Okay. Now, first of all, as I made it clear from the beginning.
No, for me as an asker, I usually say, I am an asker of questions.
Yes.
One of the letters flying around is on the headed paper of COF2, which you happen to represent on the board. And to the effect that you signed, and I wanted to ask you whether that letter flying around on social media is coming from you, that you had already said out of the 6 billion that you had requested, that there are activities that that COF2 will undertake, and that you had already gotten 100 million, you were waiting for 300 million. I have a copy of that. Is that a letter you authored or not?
First of all, there are many things, as you have said, that are being paraded around in the social media, and I don't know exactly what letter you are referring to. Because some of them are adulterations, others could be true, others not.
Yes, that's true. They could be forged, they could
and also I was yes, that's right. And I also said that I don't want the statements I'm making here, I don't want you to take them as me talking on
truth.
I'm talking on the board, because on the board it would either be the chairman and also on the fund, the managing director. So I'm talking as a Secretary General of COF2. And that's how I was invited here. But also, of course, I happen to be a member of the board. And you said, I can talk, but I don't want you to take it when I make a statement, because I also have my right as a Secretary General of the Center.
Even as a saver as well.
Yeah, as a saver also. So, and for instance, my sister was talking about Mr. Were talking certain things. We have two national centers, there is COF2, there is not. And sometimes a lot of things can come up and we can agree, sometimes we don't agree. So I don't want you to take some of those things that you hear as truth. Some of them are just because of some other reasons and all that. It's unfortunate that, because from what I'm hearing from you speaking and other people, I think the public and all of us have been taken for a ride, following a shadow, because most of the things that are being peddled are really falsehoods. Clearly you can see, and it's like falsehoods that have been believed. Even when people try to clarify, you think that they are defending something which is not true. So sometimes it becomes very complicated. And
has the fund tried to clarify?
So no, and that's what I was coming to. We have a very good department of public relations, but you know, sometimes there are things that came up, and I don't know what happened, but I think also there are issues that sometimes were being discussed. Like for instance, all these things you are talking about, you have talked about a letter from COF2, but there are also other letters from NOTO and others. There are a lot of organizations that were making discussions and requests, and these requests were now incumbent upon the management to see whether they can be taken on or not. If I sign a letter, for instance, as the Secretary General of a center, you cannot accuse me for signing it. I mean, if it's as long as it is on behalf of a center, and it will also be interpreted and taken, whether recognized or not by where you are writing. So, but you see, the challenge is, and that's one of the very unethical things that I've seen happening this season. People trying to pick letters, then they add other things. Sometimes the issues in the social media, then they are taken as a gospel truth. Like now we are talking about the 40 billion and all that, and it's like it has come to the board, has come to management, and some of those things have not yet come, or they might come or not. So what I know is that, because you have asked a question whether there is a dysfunctional board, of course the board is functional, because we have, that's why you've seen the last maybe 10 years or more, we have not had scandals, because we have what is called a stakeholder board. We have the workers there, we have the employers there, and we have the government and independent. Yes, and actually there's been a lot of function. There are a lot of deep things that I cannot speak here, where the board and the management have come up and they saved a lot of money in terms of things. But there are, you know, so there are things that we cannot speak here. But the reality is that the board has performed its mandate, and we have managed to be able to do what we are supposed to do. I know that there have been a lot of allegations here and there, and some of the things, it might not be right for us to even go into them, because they might waste a lot of time and a lot of effort. But what I wanted to say here is that the relationship between the board and the management and also the minister, I think we have really each one sort of respected his or her space in terms of dealings. Now, the challenge we have is that information comes out, like the letters you are talking about. Definitely there's a letter from the minister about that money, the 6 billion, but the context is not being given. And we try to explain that that letter goes out of meetings between the minister, the chairman of the board, and the management, and then finally she wrote back. Because according to the law, the minister had to approve the budget. And how should she had to approve by writing a letter. And in the letter of approval, she said, yes, I'm approving the budget, but recognize what we have discussed. That should be an amendment. And I think that is really right. Because, just hold on, you know, if we did not want the minister to comment, then why did we say the minister should approve? Why, what was the wisdom of Parliament to say that the board shall take the budget to the minister for approval? Does the minister just approve without any comment? And if the minister say to comment and write back and meet, I mean, why do you say that the matter is that? Because you see, then why did Parliament say the budget should go to the minister for approval? Then they would have left out that. So what the board is doing and what the minister is doing and the management, I think for us, as far as I'm concerned, I said we are following the law. Now there is also the question which my sister was raising about the additional lawyers and all that. I think I was a member of Parliament by that time we passed that law. And actually some of the...
I'm not complaining.
No, you're not. I said you raised that. And I support you, and that's why I was saying this. I was a member of Parliament by that time, and most of the clauses of sections in this law, I moved them. Mid-term, I'm the one who moved as a private member's bill. And many other things. When I was still a member of Parliament, most of those things you're talking about, include the scope and all that, I moved them, some of them personally. In fact, we had two bills. There was the government and the private members bill, which I moved.
Supported you.
Yeah, and most of the issues that came up came from the bill.
And I got some money out of it.
Private members bill. Now,
midterm.
Yeah, so, so the argument, so the argument you are raising came in the committee in the Parliament on whether it would be right to expand the scope, because it had a lot of, not only in your sector of lawyers, but even other small scale, yes, not only from the not from lawyer, the profession, and we even went to the president. That's one of the reasons where the manufacturers association and others raised the president would be against the business and all that, and then there was a lot of debate to coming back, and finally it was agreed that let us go ahead with this proposal. But it was a lot of, and there was also a lot of wisdom in what you are raising, but also there was a lot of wisdom in trying to say, but I think let us move ahead in this direction. So we had a very serious discussion, and that's why this law took almost a whole year. Even, you remember that time, I had also to do certain things, even sleep in parliament, push certain things and many other things. Which now
I saw you
now
here you are.
I'm trying to
was that
talk.
the same reason for which you pushed? Is it a wheelbarrow or you pushed? Or you went to Ministry of Finance?
No, many things. That's why right now I'm talking as a no longer a member of parliament, not an activist. I'm talking. That's why I think you are finding a difference between the other Lyomoka and this Lyomoka.
That's why this one is now very calm. I don't know what happened.
My colleague was saying that borderline.
Because now you are not a member.
I think she's expecting a certain type of
Charles.
fire speech, but
Charles.
He's now a board member.
Charles.
Yes.
Charles.
Yeah.
What is happening at NSSF is really quite unfortunate. And as Dr. Lyomoka has said, for almost 10 years they have worked on very well. Now this sense of trepidation is happening now. And I think it's happening on the account of what is taking place at NSSF in terms of leadership. So you have a board which is divided into two. And because the act, the law.
Maybe some clarification. Why are you saying the body is divided? I'm wondering. That's coming from what? Yes.
Let me explain. I'm explaining.
I'm failing to understand.
I'm coming.
Yes.
So if actually you find that the law empowers the minister to do certain things, it empowers the board to do certain things, and management as well. Now, each one of them has their different roles. Now, so if you find, for example, a board member sending a letter purported written by the minister and actually against what the minister is proposing or what the minister is writing back about, as you fully explained, to say, you see, the minister wants money. That is the position of that particular board member. Because you see, if you've been in a board meeting, you have discussed these things.
No, I'm not getting it. What you say, a member wrote against.
No. Based on the
information
that
was
you provided.
By one of the board members.
Yes, was sent by one of the board members, which means actually the board member is actually saying there is something going wrong here. The minister is being overbearing. Now,
you are saying a board member outside this panel.
NSSF board member
outside this panel.
Yes, we interact with the public.
So that's why I'm saying that the board is dysfunctional. If you are a board member, I'm a board member in some entities. If you are a board member, there is a board charter that governs your behavior, how you relate among yourselves, how you relate with the public.
And that's why here I continue saying that I'm talking as Secretary General, because I didn't want to come and talk.
I'm not condemning you at all. What I'm saying is, when you see those kind of things happening, it means there's somebody or a few people who actually don't believe the manner in which the board is operating. So if that is so, the immediate thing you do is you raise it in a board meeting. I don't like this. If you do it, then it's enough for me to resign, because I don't believe either in the values or in the manner in which things is happening. So you resigned. You tender in your resignation. But if you now go and you start now witch-hunting yourselves, and this, as Fiona said, is a huge fund. It's 37% of our national budget, actually, of national budget. So if you are a board member and you're sitting on our fund and you continue to behave like this, I think that is why the president got annoyed recently and fired these railways guys. The entire board and whatever, and that is Uganda Railways. Now, if the president sees this kind of thing happening, the next thing would be happening is the entire board should go. And then you have new sets of people to come and make sure that the stability of the fund is there. So for me, as a corporate management guru, I would recommend that, Mr. Chairman, if you are there, kindly get your teams together. And say, I can never hear this thing going on. If somebody disagrees, you resign and go. Now, if all of you now are disorganized, then I think the minister has the powers to fire all of you and then start asking for another person to come from your group, and then as the law provides. So for me,
what about if the issues remain?
What if the problem?
What if the problems are
if the president finds that the problem is with the minister, then he can fire the minister as well, and say, no, you're messing up with the fund. Let me get somebody else to go there into labor.
Yes, Fiona.
I would like to say something to just clarify. First of all, Honorable Yomoki, I was not saying the bill should not have been passed. I was saying even when it was passed, there should have been an implementation.
No, but that is parliament. You see, if they put the effective date, you not blame NSSF for implementing.
No, I understand.
Yeah, so I think that blame goes to parliament, not to the fund.
Yeah, but it's actually not a problem because I have seen organizations go back to parliament, give them feedback,
and they try to
get an amendment.
Like what we are doing with the
so on the same note, this fund is too important. For petty fights to
continue to destroy.
But I also want to say something about NSSF. I've watched it for the last 10 years, and I've been privileged to be in positions of leadership where I'm affected by it, where I participate. This has some of the best technical people, some of the most highly qualified. They have some of the best board members. I'm proud to say one of my MD is also a board member there. I don't know what he does there. I'm not speaking for him, but I'm telling you, these are some of the best people. I do not want, Honorable Mara has raised something, but I don't want us to impugn that they are in any way incapable of doing their work because they are complaining. When you see capable, competent people who are successful everywhere else, are doing something. They said that when
whom do you complain?
No. There's that to whom do you complain?
Yes.
But when board members who are concerned about a fund, you know, being concerned about an organization like maybe my small little nursery school. If you're on the board of the nursery school, it's okay. You resign. But the board of NSSF, where my children's children will benefit, if I'm on that board, I have information, I have raised questions, and maybe I do not feel I'm being heard, or I'm not being listened to, or maybe you feel other people hold the power. I asked, where is the power? Is it with the technical people? Can the MD make a decision without being interfered with? Is it with the political people? Is the board as strong as it should be? And we can see the moment these stories broke, the deadly silence of the fund was an indictment. It showed that not only, because usually I've done media before, not media, I've done public relations before. So when you're doing reputational management, you need to realize these days actually one of the biggest roles of the board is reputational management.
True.
It can even take you to jail. So why is a board quiet? And then board members are speaking. And then
not all. And then they're speaking in different
things. And then
meaning
when the only time we see a media presentation where there's a sound from there, it's the minister. For me, it makes me...
Is one of the accusers.
No, I'm just...
I mean, one of the accused.
Charles, those are your words.
One of the accused.
Allow me to speak, Charles. Do not put words in my mouth. The minister. So, who has the information? Who has the power? And what's happening? Why do we have a silent board that looks... as Honorable Mara has said. Then the other thing I want to ask Honorable Mara as a corporate governance expert, and I want to ask my sister Sarah, this is I think going to be our next project. Can we pass the corporate governance bill?
Oh.
Yes.
Let it become an act, because I think that we need to realize that right now, and by the way, the board should not be comfortable here. The test of corporate governance now in the world of all over, is skill. It's no longer, you know, they used to say that the test is that of a reasonable man. Would a reasonable man have done this? No, now they say skill. They got Honorable Lyomoki because he's an expert in workers' issues. Yes. They got maybe Fiona because she's an expert in legal. So if something goes wrong at NSSF because of a decision they made, they will be personally liable and criminally.
And I wanted to ask you a question. Just a question. You can go ahead. You see, one of the things I wanted to ask you, you are saying there was quietness and then noise. Is there a possibility also that there could be quietness because the supervisors then were not doing their work?
Who are the supervisors?
Because you see the initial DC fund.
And actually what I was going
No, I am not going, please do not make me.
No, I'm just asking a question.
Fiona, I think the thing that we make a mistake, one of the things that we make a mistake in, and you could look at it and think that, okay, that was a weakness. But different organizations adopt different strategies for different things.
Yes.
When the first thing broke about the letter, the chairman actually came out and made a statement. Guess what? Now suddenly it got drowned because instead of people listening to what the chairman said, we actually made a deliberate decision, let the noise quiet. Because rationality will kick in and we can explain. So what I'm not telling you is, you can say this is what you should have done. But
no. I'm actually not saying this is what you should have done. I'm saying there's a silence.
But it could be part of a strategy. And that's what I'm telling you, that deliberate, even today's thing, to have that minister and the Minister of Finance there, the regulator there, was part of our strategy. And no regrets on that at all, regardless how you could have done it.
My question
did
is, did it work? Yes.
That's what I'm asking.
It worked. For us, did.
Allow me also to speak.
Please.
On the issue of reputation for a fund, for any listed company in the world, for any company that depends on equity funding, silence when there's a crisis is a killer. Because those that are serving with you, because your business is trust, you're selling trust. That day we think there is something wrong, what if people say, let's first hold on and watch what's happening there? These people that you're trying to force.
Hundreds of billions
Let me tell you, if URA has failed to get taxes from the informal sector, I think NSF has the capacity to start. What I'm trying to say is, let's not, with all due respect, let me speak, and I'm not personally attacking you. I'm just looking at, as NSSF, I'm saying we should not keep quiet. And saying, people, this is something where everybody, even my mother, is back home concerned, This NSSF thing is a serious thing. It's the only thing some of us will ever give our children.
That's true.
So we are concerned.
For some of us, it is the only saving.
Yes, we have a right to ask questions. This problem has gone on since November, 2 months, 3 months almost. We are into January, a whole quarter. We are asking, why the silence? Yes, maybe the chairman released a statement, but everything that came after was very consequential. When they accused board members of doing things, when they accused the minister of doing things, when they accused the managing director of doing things, we need to know immediately, what is the board doing? What is the ministry doing? What is the Ministry of Finance that is supposed to also have its own oversight doing? What is the IGP doing? Where were they when all these things were happening? What is the audit? Allow me, Charles, to ask one last question. And I really hope that nobody will take everything I've said here personally. Really, I'm just an innocent...
No, but this is a public
citizen. Yes. No, listen. I'm an innocent citizen, but I'm concerned. If Mr.
Iota.
Mr. Iota and I agree with you. If what Mr. Iota has been saying, NSSF has been a success for the past 10 years. They've been innovative. In fact, they probably have more subscription than others in the whole East African region, right? You have the largest subscription. You're a success. You have the best staff. You have the most qualified board. Why is the fund having investigations? So what was the process of these things? And why are these things being done almost in a shroud? Because it's when we come here in a show and ask these very uncomfortable questions, and then we are told, no, you know, it's lies, you know, people are just, but there are letters. There are letters written with signatures on, with letterheads.
Yes.
I think that we need to deal with the elephant in the room. When you have a wound, you don't cover it up, you deal with it. But we really need to see the fund show us that they're in charge, that our money is safe, and we need to also see a voice from Parliament, Honourable, saying that, is our money safe? Questions need to be asked.
Yep. Thank you very much, Fiona. There are two questions that have come, and I thought one is a comment. This person is a senior person in government and says, this is a very interesting discussion. The men are getting panic attacks. Thanks, moderator and the guests. You have praised them. And then he does this. This must be an NRM person. Because he did like this.
I'll do the others too.
And then there is a question here. The question is, what does this freeze? And I want to ask Patrick in 1 minute to respond, because we are left with under 6 minutes, so I needed to give each of you 2 minutes to wind up. Okay. But before that, there is a question. What does this freeze on NSSF payments by the IGG mean? How long will it be? Does that mean, for now, I can't get my midterm access till after investigation, or I can't even access my benefits till after investigations? Okay. Patrick, you need to answer that.
Okay. I think that's a very good question, and most members actually do concerned with that. What the IGG did was to give us a relief in this way. The letter came saying, take care of the salaries, take care of the wages, take care of the statutory payments. Anything related to benefits is statutory, because based on eligibility by the law. So you can come and apply.
Yeah.
It's not, so the member should be fine. It's going to, in terms of how long will it take, let me not step in the IGG's shoes to answer that. But my hope is we've satisfied whatever she wanted, and hopefully it will be sooner rather than later. So I think that one we can deal with that. I'm not too much concerned with that, because I think the things that they wanted of us, we've actually provided. So we think that we should be okay in that area. The one thing that I think Fiona raises, and I'll agree with you on one thing.
On everything.
No, one thing. Unfortunately, it is having your cake and eating it too. On one hand, you want NSF to be lawful.
Yes.
On one hand, you're saying we are forcing you to contribute now, when the law did not even make it. And this is where I agree with you. The law never made a provision for a transition period.
Yes.
And it was a weakness within the law. Because
but laws are amended.
No. Let me tell you something. We actually tried to.
Okay.
We tried to have it amended. The most amazing thing, the only transition period in that whole law was midterm access.
Yes.
They gave us 45 days. The rest of the clauses became effective immediately. And the other thing that I said, when you look at the informal sector, that's why your voluntary is still there.
And Sarah will go to court for you.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's still what? It's still voluntary.
Yes.
Anybody who is a registered entity, the law says you need to contribute for you. Now, I don't know how to get around that before you think I now be also breaking the law. So that's why we need the help. And Mr. Mara says we can't have the cake and eat it too.
Yes.
And the good thing is these laws are made by us. You have a member of parliament who raise it up as a member so that amendments can be made. Thank you.
And then maybe finally, someone called Isaac is asking.
He didn't answer that. If it's okay, why are we fixing it?
So it's what?
If the fund ran smoothly, you were successful.
Why is there an investigation?
Actually, I won't touch why is there an investigation, because I think all of you lawyers call it what? Sub judice.
Oh yeah.
I can't even comment the foundation why, where. So
okay, maybe one question.
However,
one question, before you come, let me just supplement what you're saying. You answered once. So my information is a fund that is established with an act of parliament, regulations, rules, an effective board, an effective executive.
Yeah.
Did you process the issues that are before IGG? Did you recommend them? Who invited IGG? Did she invite herself through a whistleblower?
Actually, it was actually the board that wrote the IGG.
To come and investigate?
Yes, it's the board that wrote the IGG.
Okay.
Someone is saying,
and it is very important to underline that. It was actually the board.
Is it true NSSF board was given or asked for shillings 10 million monthly retainer each? That's what someone is asking. Is the construction?
No, boards are given allowance into that.
That's very simplistic.
No, someone is asking.
That's for 100 million shillings from NSSF.
What's that supposed to be paid?
Okay. But that is consequential.
The resolution is what matters.
Let's wind up. Sarah, 1 minute each now. I think we have a few minutes left. Way forward, and you can take it from any limb. And
okay, for me there are two things. One is that
what you would want to see as we
processes, procedures, rules, nobody should jump the queue. If there is a budget issue, let it be generated from a user department. You cannot have a minister writing and stating an amount, because our data is in public. That is wrong. That is actually a danger. It causes a danger of uncertainty and principled meddling of politicians in the fund. And I can assure you that in this era of new technology, the savers are going to fight back. Whoever is messing up with the savers' money, you will face their wrath. And my message to the savers, please don't keep quiet. Push back at every level. We are tired of bad governance issues in this country.
Honorable Yomoki, Dr.
Yeah, thank you very much. For me, what I wanted to say is I see there is a storm, but from NSSF direction or perspective, we did not know there was a storm. And I think that's why there was quietness. I think because when things started coming up, we took it that some of them were falsehoods, and we thought maybe they can pass, but we realized that people are believing them. So I think for me it's a very, very big lesson, in terms, especially for some of our departments. But then the last point I wanted also to make is that in terms of competence, in terms of mandate, I think the body which you have as NSF is one of the best in terms of, because we have the employers, we have the workers, government and all that. And I'm very sure that there are a lot of things that take place, I can say in the boardroom, that you cannot even share outside. Yeah. But there's a lot of debate, and by the time we come to a conclusion, usually there is consensus, and by the time we conclude, we have satisfied all the various stakeholders, the employers, the workers, and all that. So for me, I would just want to assure the workers that as far as I see, from the very faithful and honest point of view, their savings are very safe. Okay. And we are doing our best. In fact, what you hear about investigations, about all this, I think is in the best interest of the members, because even if the allegations, you have to investigate and find out whether they are true or not. So it will be, instead of just sweeping the carpet. So it's better that
actually do more good once you come out.
So, and with an independent entity. So for me, whatever is being done and whatever is being talked about, I think by the end of the day, the truth will prevail. And that has been my hope. That's why even sometimes I told you, I stopped following the social media, because I realized there was a lot of negative energy. But I knew that later on, the truth will come out and will prevail. The unfortunate part of it, as I've learned,
it's active student, it's not a negative energy.
You know, he used to love it. He used to use it very well.
And he was an expert at it.
But what I've learned, I think the lesson to us that when something comes up, I think it's better, just as you explained, Don't be quiet. I think it's better to clarify.
Yes,
To clarify. Otherwise,
yes.
something small can become
Clarify.
something. By the time you want to clarify, it's already too late. That's what I'm learning. So I think it's a very, very good experience for us as a fund.
Especially in modern, you know, management of reputation and image. Yeah. Thank you, Honorable Yamoki.
Charles and viewers, I think the allegations...
And he did not tell you we are together in somewhere.
I campaigned for him to be guild president at Makerere University.
Oh, wow.
And we were not in North Court all together.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
I learned to cause the name to be changed.
Charles and viewers.
Very dangerous guy.
I can see.
Charles, the allegation took center stage in our conversation tonight. And it really took us away from core discussion issue which I wanted us to discuss in relations to the investments which NSSF is making. As I mentioned, this is a 17.9 trillion fund. And the 7% is in mortgages. And I wanted Director Patrick to tell us what kind of investment are they making in mortgages in Uganda for our people, and what kind of return is coming from that area. The 15% is basically embedded within the East African security exchanges, the equity markets in Kenya, in Tanzania, and sometimes here. And because of, I think, challenges in the market, the return on those investments have been very poor. So if you add 7% and 15%, that is almost 22% of a 17.9 trillion fund. So if the yields, because now the yields in the bond markets are actually very high. In recently, when inflation was high, it was actually going at 18%. So you find that is a good return to the worker. But the one of mortgages and equity markets are poor. So I wanted him to give us some ideas of what they are going to do to really provide greater yield so that we pay workers more. So the 9% which they did, they should go up on the 12 which they have been doing. That said, though, based on what we have discussed today, as a way forward, I think it is important for the persons mentioned within the law, the minister, the board, and management, to really sit down and put their acts together. So that, and what I'm hearing is actually the board members are eminent persons. They have been successful.
They all are.
Yes, in their own right. But if you are eminent, then if controversial matters like this come, you should be able to sit and deal with it. If you fail to deal with it, it means now either your management skills is lacking, you might have the skills of expertise in the area, but in terms of working together, because the board must work together. If they fail to work together, then definitely some people will have to resign, or basically be asked to leave, or at worst, all of them will have to leave. If the minister is the one with the problem, then the appointing authority is there to make a decision.
And the parliament.
And
you have an oversight role.
Yeah, so the question around corporate governance standards must be improved, must be maintained, because NSSF is a fat cash cow for us, for Ugandans, and for savers.
Thank you.
Thank you, Council Fiona.
I am just asking that I be forgiven if I have offended anyone.
No.
I was very impassioned because I really believe that we can transform even East Africa's economy with these retirement benefit savings and all these things. There is a real wealth in that, and I think that eventually, because we've been in my other life, I'm a board member for the East African Business Council. And one of the things killing businesses across East Africa is financing. Now, if we can get equity financing on the stock exchange by a fund like ours, it will actually be directly contributing to the bottom line of the country. This is very, very crucial. We have governance issues in the fund. We have people don't seem to know their limits. They don't even seem sometimes, there's a question of who has which powers, who has which limits, where does the board stop, where does the ministry begin, where does the management stop, who communicates, when do they communicate. The other thing also is we need to take this away from personalities and be very principled in how we respond to this issue.
Yeah.
In the past, because we have been political, we hide things. Parliament comes up with reports, we don't do anything about them. Recommendations come, it's not the first time IGG, I don't know how many IGG reports are lying places. I do not know, honestly, as a saver, I don't know whether it benefits us to have all these people investigating a fund that he is saying works. It's going to affect trust. I think that we need to look at the things. If we think there's something wrong, let's first ask the people who are in charge of it to give us a report, to tell us what is wrong. But I'm also concerned about Parliament. I have not seen the Parliament of Uganda, which has also supervisory role here, also get concerned. These are the people's representatives. Corporate governance is a real thing.
They should.
They should.
The minister reports.
But then we also need to understand and address the elephant in the room of over-regulation. NSSF reports to 2 ministries. And everybody has always explained the difference and why it's important, but we can see now that it's causing problems. And one of the problems it's causing is that we have is it the administrative and then the financial? I don't know. You
investments.
The investments and but these are issues of a technical nature, and for as long as we do not realize that whatever we do with NSSF today will affect other MDAs and other parastatals, then people like my brother here and all the other management people in other institutions will not be safe. They will fear for their jobs, they will fear, and then you'll see paralysis. So lastly, I just want to say that as Sarah said, we really need to hear the voice of the people of Uganda. Ugandans, let's not let things just happen. Let's ask for accountability. You know, I'm sorry to say this, but Ugandans have such a short memory span. Sometimes we're like fish. You forget we shout about something today, tomorrow we're on something else, you know. Please, Uganda, let's stay on this issue until we know that our money is safe. Thank you very much.
We have a saying in Uganda, Uganda ne bigenda.
Tusigale wano, let's first finish fasting.
Let's move with what is going.
Our thing. This is our legacy. This is the largest, this is the most subscribed fund in the East African region. It's a success story. It's the Pearl of Africa. At the time when we're doing the CFTA, we do not know what investments NSSF might make in Nigeria, in emerging economies, in the oil and gas sector that's coming up. We cannot afford to have just a few individuals mess up such an organization. So let's clean it up.
Thank you. Such an impassioned way to end. Mr. Ayota, now for you to end with the way forward, but someone says, Charles, please counsel Okello that isn't an operational budget of over 200 billion too high for NSSF? Kindly ask Mr. Ayota to end with that.
It's not.
It's not. It's given the...
It's not. I mean, when you look at what it generates in value, and I think you almost point out a fallacy in most people, the way they approach there. It's not how much you spent, the value you generate. If you start from that side, it doesn't matter if you spent 1 trillion shillings. If it generates 20 trillion shillings,
business,
you've got value.
Business.
Anyway, so thank you. I kind of want to actually thank Council Fiona and Council Sarah, the passion they've had in terms of talking for the members. And they even talk on my behalf because I'm also a member.
But even as management, I've really talked for you also.
I think the thing that I want to actually point out here is the thing that they've appealed to members, hold us to account. Let's talk. I mean, there's no harm in us hearing what you have to tell us. We learn from each other and we do that. So this is actually very healthy, in fact, going forward.
And actually, if they were peeping into our boardroom and they will discuss, all these issues usually come.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. So please, I really recommend it. The only thing I'm saying is, please, Director, Council Sarah and the Council, carry that passion in obeying the law. Yes. So you don't give an excuse for not contributing for your employees.
You know, I have participated in advocacy. You have said that I have been an advocate for people to pay NSSF.
Now, Director Mara asked a question about real estate. What are we doing in real estate for Ugandans, as you can see?
Yes.
One of the things you're right about.
Do it fast, we are past time.
Real estate has two components. You buy land, it takes a while to develop it, and then you begin to get returns. I can tell you something, we have actually what we call the criteria for our internal rate of return for investments. And that normally ranges from anywhere over 15% when finally you build. You actually present value, it's okay. Yeah. When you look at the two projects, the big ones that we have today, and I'm going to say actually three, pension towers.
Yes.
You know, some people, we don't look at pension towers for what it is for this country. There are organizations that will not go to a country that does not have what's called Class A offices. They will come to Uganda, go to Kenya, set up shop, fly to Uganda, do business, or put a liaison office, go back to Nairobi. Yes. Uganda doesn't have a Class A office. The only Class A office that's coming up is pension towers. So we can actually brag as Ugandans that we are now an investment destination with a bill to attract Class A investors who will come and occupy Class A offices and occupy Loboa Class A residences. That's where it positions Uganda. We know it may not be affordable to most Ugandans. Then we have Temangalo, where the price entry point is around 80 million shillings going up. And we've catered for various areas for Ugandans to be able to get that. And that's a story we're actually telling in terms of that thing. So we can actually, where are we going? What are we trying to do? One of the things that you mentioned, I think, on equity, what we found out in Uganda, in fact, let me tell you what we did. We project for 15 years. It doesn't matter how big we are. The country is not creating enough jobs.
Yes.
We grow by members who join the fund, which means that if we do not intervene in creating jobs, we'll die in 15 years.
Exactly.
So we created a program called High Innovator. And what we're doing is taking startup companies, have wonderful ideas, but they die because nobody's even investing in them. Small amount of money. First investment was in Feb 2022. 27 companies. We invested the next batch in November, 78 companies. We basically now put 105 companies that we invested in them, small startups. Within that 1 year, based on this in partnership with Massacre Foundation, we created 21,000 jobs. We're now running an all-female cohort, and we hope in March we'll fund 100 startups. And our thinking is this: over the next 5 years, if we fund 500 and only 10%, which is 50, succeed and they become the MTNs, the UBCs of this country, we just created our own future in terms of what we're doing in that area. So we look forward to being very pattern and parcel what's happening in the country. When you look at our direction, because now we know everybody in Uganda has to save, we actually put ambitious targets for ourselves. Like we said, right now when you look at the people saving with NSF, it's only 10% of Uganda's working population under the old law. We are going for 50% within the next 10 years. So that we can have at least 15 million Ugandans having a long-term saving program. When we do that, and I will close with this, so you can understand that we cannot have a long-term view of this. Look at countries like South Korea, Taiwan, Malaysia, Singapore, China. They took off and grew when their long-term domestic savings hit 30% of GDP. Because that means they could use internal resources to develop. Today, Uganda, 12%. And we hope in the next 10 years we can ratchet up savings. So that this country, like Minister Kasaija said, now we can self-finance safely. And by the way, we're even lending to government through bonds. It's the safest instrument you can ever get. The day we Ugandans can self-finance, then no lender will hold a stick of our heads.
Yes.
We'll be self-sustaining, and NSF is going to play a big part in doing that.
Yeah.
Thank you, savers. Your money is safe, is safe, is safe, because it's also my money, and it's safe, is safe, is safe. Thank you, Charles.
Thank you very much, Patrick.
What a way to close.
Much appreciated.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. It was like the debate of pros and cons.
Yeah.
So I will not say who. The pros.
I'm happy that there are a lot of disciples, my disciples, Sarah and Fiona, you know, the fire.
The good thing is that the ladies were on one side, and the gentlemen were on the other side.
We were outnumbered.
You are not outnumbered. I was your bouncer. I ensured that I protected you against unnecessary intimidation. Except that I was a biased moderator. And I gladly accepted to be a biased moderator today, because like Fiona said, my money is there and all my children are looking forward to that money. So thank you very much, Sarah. Thanks a lot, Honorable Yomoki. Thanks a lot, Honorable Omara. Thank you very much, Senior Counsel Fiona, and thank you, Counsel also, by the way, Patrick. And
Patrick has really held up well.
I know.
No, I'm not a counsel, I'm an accountant.
You know, the hot seat had the very cold water from underneath. I had promised that the Ministry of Health message is here, and it's headed. It's headlined "Good News: Uganda is now Ebola free." This is signed by Minister for Health, Dr. Jane Ruth Acheng Ochero, and she says Uganda is now Ebola free. This is dated 11th January. However, it is not time to relax yet. Malaria is on the rise, and other diseases like HIV/AIDS, TB, high blood pressure, diabetes, and cancer have not rested. Go for medical checkup. Get treatment from a qualified health worker. Adhere to the prescribed treatment. Practice the recommended preventive behaviors. Remember, health is made at home and only repaired in health facilities. Signed, Dr. Jane Ruth Acheng Ochero. Thank you very much, Dr. Jen, for the strength and for the leadership that you continue giving us. Yes. And we really appreciate your role and the work that you continue doing, especially the sacrifice with your entire team. Thank you very much, Uganda, for always watching and for participating in these discussions. And thanks from the entire team of the Behind the Headlines here at UBC. Otherwise, thank you very much. God bless you all. Until next week, bye-bye.
Thank you.